Taman stood at the docking port and stared at the massive ship in front of him. The silent Talon looked like something built for war. Its hull was dark metal, covered in scratches and dents from 1,000 hunts. Steam hissed from vents along its sides. This was a Varric hunting vessel, and he was about to step inside. He checked his small bag one more time. Everything he owned fit inside it. 2 spare uniforms, basic tools, and a worn photo of his family back on Earth. His hands did not shake as he closed the bag. They never did, no matter how nervous he felt inside. A message blinked on his communicator. It was from Jisoo, his childhood friend who worked on the station. "Are you sure about this?" she had written. "The Varric hate outsiders, especially humans." Taman typed back quickly. "I'm sure. This is my chance." He did not tell her that this was his only chance. No other crew would hire him. Earth humans were considered weak in the galaxy. Too soft, too slow, too breakable. The Varric were the opposite. They were the best hunters in known space. Tall, covered in tough scales, with claws that could cut through steel. Every species feared them. And somehow their captain had chosen Taman for this crew. The airlock door opened with a heavy clang. Taman stepped inside. The air smelled different here. Sharp and cold, like metal and something wild. His boots echoed on the floor as he walked down the corridor. Everything was built too large. The doorways reached twice his height. The corridors were wide enough for 3 of him to walk side by side. He found the crew gathered in the main hold. They stopped talking when he entered. 8 pairs of eyes turned to look at him. The Varric were even bigger up close. The smallest one stood at least 7 feet tall. Their scales ranged from deep green to black. Some had spikes along their spines. All had claws. One of them laughed. It was a harsh barking sound. "This is the human?" The Varric stepped forward. His scales were dark red, unusual for his species. "This soft thing is supposed to help us hunt." Taman said nothing. He had learned long ago that words meant little. Only actions mattered. "Karvesh, enough." The voice came from the back of the room. A larger Varric pushed through the group. His scales were silver gray, marked with old scars. This had to be Hyunwoo, the captain, the legendary hunter who had tracked creatures across 100 worlds. Hyunwoo looked at Taman with eyes that seemed to see everything. "You are Taman?" "Yes, sir." "You know what we do here?" "You hunt dangerous creatures. You track them across systems. You capture or kill them." "And you think you can keep up?" Karvesh interrupted. "You have no claws, no natural armor. Your bones break like twigs. What use are you?" Taman met his eyes. "I carry my weight. I do my job. That's all I can promise." Several Varric laughed. Karvesh's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement or contempt. "Put him in the lower quarters," Hyunwoo said. "We leave in 2 hours. Our target is a Krethian war beast on Talvex 9. It has killed 43 beings in the last month. The local government wants it stopped." The crew dispersed. A female Varric with lighter scales stepped forward. "I'm Yuna, ship's medic. I'll show you to your quarters." She led him down another corridor, then down a narrow ladder. The lower quarters were clearly meant for storage, not crew. The room she showed him was barely large enough for a bed and a small locker. "It's not much," Yuna said quietly, "but it's private." "It's fine. Thank you." She paused at the door. "Why did you take this job? You must know how they see humans." "I know, but I need to prove something." "To them?" "To myself." After she left, Taman unpacked his bag. He arranged his few belongings carefully. Everything had its place. He changed into his work uniform and began checking his equipment. His tools were old but well-maintained. He had modified most of them himself over the years. Through the thin wall, he could hear the crew talking in the next room. They spoke in Galactic Common, probably so he would understand. "A human on a hunt," one said. "This is a joke." "Hyunwoo has lost his mind," another replied. "Humans are persistence pests. They only survived on their world because they bred fast and worked in groups. One alone is nothing. I give him 2 days before he quits. I give him 1 day before he breaks something, probably himself." They all laughed. Taemin kept working. His hands moved steadily, checking each tool, each piece of equipment. When he was done, he sat on the bed and closed his eyes. He did not pray. He did not worry. He simply breathed and centered himself. The ship's engines rumbled to life. He felt the vibration through the walls as the silent Talon undocked from the station. They were leaving now, heading into deep space. A message came through on his communicator. Jisoo again. "I pulled some files on Hyunwoo," she wrote. "He's never taken an outsider before. Never. In 200 years of hunting. Why you? Why now?" Taemin had wondered the same thing. The job offer had come suddenly. No interview, just a direct message. "You are hired. Report to the Silent Talon on Station Day 47. He typed back to Jisoo. "I don't know, but I'll find out." "Be careful," she wrote. "I'm hearing things. The crew isn't happy. They might try to make you quit." "Let them try." He put the communicator away and lay back on the bed. The engines hummed louder as they entered faster-than-light travel. Stars stretched outside his small window, turning into long streaks of light. Somewhere in the ship above him, Karvesh was probably planning how to make his life difficult. The others were likely placing bets on how long he would last. Only Hyunwoo remained a mystery. The captain had barely looked at him, barely spoken, but Taemin had seen something in that brief glance. Recognition, maybe, or curiosity. Hyunwoo was watching him, waiting for something. Taemin would show them all what a human could do, not with strength or speed or natural weapons, but with the one thing his species had always possessed, the ability to endure, the ability to never, ever quit. He closed his eyes and slept. In 2 hours, they would arrive at Talvex 9. The real test would begin then. For now, he needed rest. Hunters always rested when they could. The prey never waited for you to be ready, and Taemin was a hunter, whether the Varric knew it yet or not. The planet Talvex 9 looked like a green nightmare from orbit. Thick clouds swirled across its surface, hiding jungles so dense that sunlight barely reached the ground. Taemin stood in the cargo bay with the rest of the crew, watching the planet grow larger on the screen. "Gravity is 1.4 times standard," Hyunwoo announced. "Temperature averages 40 degrees, humidity near 100%. The beast was last seen in Sector 7, near the river networks." Karvesh checked his weapons. "How do you want to do this, Captain?" "Standard formation. I track, you cover flanks. We move fast and quiet." Hyunwoo's eyes shifted to Taemin. "The human carries supplies." Of course, Taemin thought. Pack mule duty. He said nothing, just moved to the supply crates and started loading his pack. "Make sure you don't slow us down," Karvesh said. "We won't wait if you fall behind." Taemin lifted the pack onto his shoulders. It had to weigh at least 80 pounds. Combined with the increased gravity, it would feel like carrying over 100 pounds. His knees bent slightly under the weight, but he straightened and nodded. The shuttle dropped through the clouds. Rain hammered against the hull. When the door opened, heat and moisture rushed in like a physical force. Taemin stepped out onto soft ground and immediately felt the difference. Everything felt heavier. His legs, his arms, even breathing took more effort. The Varric moved easily. Their powerful bodies were built for this. They spread out, checking their equipment, scanning the jungle with practiced eyes. Taemin looked around. Trees rose like pillars into the mist above. Vines hung everywhere. Strange sounds echoed from all directions, calls, shrieks, rustling. This world was alive and it sounded hungry. "Move out," Hyunwoo commanded. The crew started walking. Taman followed, his pack already cutting into his shoulders. The ground was soft and muddy. His boots sank with each step. Within minutes, sweat poured down his face. The humidity made it impossible to cool down. Ahead, the Varric moved like ghosts. Silent, efficient, barely leaving tracks. Taman tried to match their pace. The pack bounced with each step. His breathing grew harder, but he kept moving. After an hour, they stopped at a stream. Hyunwoo knelt by the water, examining the bank. "Tracks here. 3 days old, maybe 4. His claws traced marks in the mud. "Big. Bigger than reports suggested." Karvesh grunted. "We should set up base camp here. Good water. Defensible position." "Agreed. Make camp." The crew dropped their packs and started working. Taman set his pack down carefully and looked around. No one gave him instructions. They all knew their jobs and moved with practiced coordination. He started gathering firewood, even though they would use heat generators. Good practice. Always have backup. As he worked, one of the Varric walked past and accidentally kicked his pack. It tumbled down the bank into the stream. "Oops," the Varric said, not looking back. Taman climbed down and pulled the pack from the water. His rations were soaked. Some of his equipment was wet. He said nothing, just laid everything out to dry as best he could. Yuna watched from across the camp. She shook her head slightly but did not interfere. By nightfall, the camp was ready. Tents formed a circle around a central area. Sensors created a perimeter. The crew ate their rations and talked quietly about the hunt. Taman ate what he could salvage from his wet food. It tasted like mud and chemicals. He swallowed it anyway. Food was fuel, nothing more. "I'll take first watch," Karvesh announced. "Wake me in 4 hours," Hyunwoo said, heading to his tent. Taman spread his sleeping roll in his assigned tent. It was the smallest, farthest from the center. He lay down and closed his eyes, but sleep did not come. Something felt wrong. The jungle was too quiet. The normal sounds had stopped. He sat up and listened carefully. Nothing. Just silence and the soft breathing of the crew in other tents. Outside, Karvesh sat by the sensor array. His head was nodding. Taman watched through a gap in his tent. The Varric's eyes were closing, opening, closing again. He was falling asleep. Taman wanted to wake someone, but who would believe him? They already thought he was useless. Then he heard it. A soft sound, barely audible. Something large moving through the jungle, not making noise on purpose. Hunting. Karvesh's head dropped fully. He was asleep. The sound came closer. Taman's hand moved to his emergency flare. He gripped it tight, waiting. His heart pounded, but his hand stayed steady. A shape moved at the edge of the camp. Massive, low to the ground, eyes reflected in the dim light from the sensors. The Crethean war beast. Taman pulled the flare and ignited it in one smooth motion. Brilliant red light exploded across the camp. "Contact!" he shouted. The beast roared and charged. It was enormous, covered in armored plates, with jaws that could crush metal. It headed straight for the nearest tent. The crew erupted from their shelters. Hyunwoo was first, weapon already in his hands. He fired at the beast, hitting its shoulder. The creature barely flinched. Karvesh stumbled awake, confused and disoriented. The beast's tail swung toward him. He would have been crushed, but 3 other crew members tackled him aside just in time. Taman threw another flare, this one landing directly in the beast's path. It recoiled from the light, giving the crew time to form a defensive line. "Drive it back!" Hyunwoo ordered. The Varric opened fire. The beast roared again, frustrated, then turned and crashed back into the jungle. The sound of its retreat faded quickly. Silence fell over the camp. Hyunwoo turned to Karvesh. "You fell asleep." I did not mean to." 3 crew members would be dead. Hyunwoo's voice was cold. "Who raised the alarm?" The crew looked around. Finally, one pointed at Taman, who still held an empty flare launcher. Hyunwoo's eyes met his. Something passed between them. Understanding, maybe, or evaluation. Karvesh stood up, brushing mud from his scales. I was awake. I saw it coming. The human just got lucky with the flare. Is that so? Hyunwoo's tone suggested he knew better. Yes, Captain. Hyunwoo said nothing more. He ordered double watches for the rest of the night and returned to his tent. The crew settled back down, muttering among themselves. No one thanked Taemin. No one even looked at him, except Yuna. She caught his eye and nodded once, a small acknowledgement. Taemin returned to his tent. His hands were shaking now. Adrenaline finally catching up with him. He had seen the beast up close. It was a monster. Something from nightmares. Fast, armored, intelligent enough to test their defenses, and they were supposed to hunt it. He lay back down but kept his clothes on. His boots stayed laced. The flare launcher stayed in his hand. Outside, he heard Hyunwoo's voice, quiet but clear. You do not sleep? Taemin realized the captain was standing near his tent. I sleep, Taemin answered. Just not when death is close. A long pause, then footsteps walking away. Taemin stared at the tent ceiling. The hunt had only just begun, and already he had saved 3 lives. Lives that might not even realize they were saved. But Hyunwoo knew. The captain had seen everything. That was enough. For now, that was enough. Taemin finally closed his eyes as rain began to fall again outside. The jungle whispered its secrets to the darkness. And somewhere out there, the beast waited, learning, planning. The real hunt would start tomorrow. 3 days into the hunt, and the crew was losing patience. The beast kept disappearing. Every time Hyunwoo found a trail, it went cold within hours. The creature was smart, smarter than any war beast should be. Taemin walked at the back of the group, carrying supplies that seemed to grow heavier each day. His shoulders were raw from the pack straps. His legs ached constantly. The increased gravity never stopped pulling at him, but he kept moving. He also kept watching. The others focused on technology, on sensors and tracking devices. Taemin watched the jungle itself, the way certain plants were crushed. How some water holes were disturbed while others stayed clear, the pattern of birds taking flight. We should check the eastern ravines, he said during a brief rest. Karvesh laughed. And why would we do that, human? The tracks keep leading near water, but not to drink. It's following the water to find prey. Animals come to drink. The beast knows this. Our sensors would detect it near water sources, Karvesh said dismissively. Maybe it learned to avoid your sensors. Impossible. You know nothing of hunting. Hyunwoo said nothing, but his eyes flickered to Taemin briefly before looking away. They continued in the direction Karvesh chose. 3 more hours of walking, no signs of the beast. That night, Taemin's ration pack split open, ruined. Someone had cut it, made it look like an accident. He was left with nothing to eat. Yuna offered him some of hers, but he refused. Save it. You need your strength. So do you. I'll manage. After the crew settled in, Taemin slipped away from camp quietly. He had noticed certain plants during the day. Some looked similar to edible varieties from Earth's databases. He tested small amounts carefully, waiting to see if they made him sick. 2 types proved safe. Not tasty, but edible. He gathered what he could and returned to camp without being seen. The next morning, the crew discovered their main supply cache had gotten wet during the night's rain. Poor storage. Half their rations were spoiled. We'll have to head back, one of the Variks said. No, Hyunwoo replied firmly. We finished this hunt. But Captain, we don't have enough food. Then we hunt our food as well as the beast. We are Varik. We do not quit. They moved on, but Taemin noticed the crew's energy dropping. Hunger made them irritable. Arguments broke out. Karvesh's tracking became sloppy. Taman foraged when he could, gathering the plants he had tested. He ate them quietly, not mentioning them to others. They would not trust his judgment anyway. On the 5th day, the storm hit. It came fast, with winds that bent trees and rain that fell like needles. The crew rushed to set up shelter, but the wind tore their advanced tents apart. The material ripped, poles snapped. Within minutes, everything was chaos. "The equipment!" someone shouted. "Secure the equipment!" Water poured down in sheets. The crew scrambled to save their technology, their weapons, anything valuable. Taman saw their predicament clearly. They had relied too much on advanced gear. None of them knew how to work with what the jungle provided. He found a rocky overhang and started building. He used fallen branches, wove them together with vines, layered large leaves for waterproofing. His hands moved quickly, remembering techniques from survival training. The structure grew rapidly. "What is he doing?" someone asked. "Building something. Primitive shelter." "That won't work." But it did. Within an hour, Taman had constructed a shelter large enough for the whole crew. It was crude but solid. Rain flowed off the leaf roof. The woven walls blocked the wind. The crew huddled in their ruined tents, getting soaked. Taman called out over the storm, "There's room here!" Pride kept them out in the rain for another 10 minutes. Then cold and water won. One by one, they moved into Taman's shelter. It was cramped. The Varric barely fit, but it was dry and protected from the wind. "Lucky guess," Karvesh muttered. Taman said nothing. He was already outside again, in the rain, checking their equipment. The sensors were damaged. Water had gotten into several devices. He worked carefully, taking them apart, drying each component. Yuna came out to help. "You should rest. You built the shelter. Equipment first, we need it working." "You're shivering." "I'm fine." But he was not fine. His hands were turning blue. His whole body shook. The cold rain and exhaustion were taking their toll. Still, he kept working. Hyunwoo emerged from the shelter and stood watching. He did not offer to help. He simply observed as Taman repaired each piece of equipment, his movements getting slower, clumsier. Finally, the last device was fixed. Taman tried to stand, but his legs gave out. He collapsed into the mud. Yuna rushed over. "Help me get him inside." 2 Varric came out and carried Taman into the shelter. Yuna wrapped him in thermal blankets and checked his vital signs. "Hypothermia," she said. "Not severe, but close. He needs rest and warmth." The crew looked at Taman differently now, not with respect exactly, but perhaps with less contempt. Hyunwoo knelt beside him. "Why do you persist when they treat you as nothing?" Taman's teeth chattered, but he managed to speak. "Because this is what humans do. We endure. We outlast. We don't quit. Even when it might kill you. Especially then." Something changed in Hyunwoo's expression, a understanding of some kind. He stood and addressed the crew. "Tomorrow we follow the eastern ravines." "Near the water sources," Karvesh started to protest. "But Captain," the human was right. "The beast is hunting near water. We should have listened 3 days ago." Silence fell over the shelter. Several crew members glanced at Taman with surprise. That night, someone left extra rations near Taman's sleeping area. He did not know who. In the morning, he found his torn pack had been repaired. Again, no one took credit. Small things. But they meant something. The storm passed by dawn. The crew emerged to find the jungle washed clean. Everything smelled of wet earth and growing things. Hyunwoo led them east toward the ravines. Taman walked in the middle of the group now, not at the back. The pack on his shoulders felt lighter, though its weight had not changed. They reached the first ravine by midday. Hyunwoo stopped and examined the ground carefully. Then he went very still. "Here," he said quietly. "Fresh tracks, less than an hour old." The crew readied their weapons. Taemin checked his equipment, making sure everything was secure. Karvesh studied the tracks and his expression changed. Recognition, then something else. Concern, maybe. "Captain," he said slowly, "these tracks. The spacing is wrong. I see it. This is not attack behavior. This is protective behavior," Taemin finished. "It's a mother. Protecting young." Everyone turned to look at him. "How do you know?" Karvesh demanded. "The track pattern. Wider spacing, more cautious movements. Checking the perimeter constantly. It's not hunting for food or territory. It's defending." Hyun-woo studied Taemin for a long moment. "How long have you known?" 3 days. "And you said nothing?" "I tried. No one listened." The truth of that hung in the air. Taemin had tried to guide them. They had dismissed him every time. Hyun-woo straightened. "Then we proceed carefully. If there are young, this changes everything." "Changes what?" Karvesh asked. "The contract is for the beast. Young or not, it still killed 43 beings. Beings who likely came too close to her den," Taemin said quietly. "You don't know that." "Don't I?" Before anyone could respond, a sound echoed from deeper in the ravine. A roar, but different from before. Not aggressive. Warning. The hunt had just become much more complicated. The den was hidden behind a waterfall, exactly where Taemin had predicted. The crew moved quietly through the ravine, weapons ready. The mother beast's tracks led directly inside. Hyun-woo signaled for them to stop. He studied the entrance carefully, his experienced eyes reading the signs. "She knows we're here," he said softly. "She's waiting inside." Karvesh loaded a heavy stun round into his weapon. "Then we go in and finish this. Quick and clean." "Wait," Hyun-woo held up a hand. "Look at the tracks again. How many cubs?" Taemin had been counting. 3, I think, maybe 4, all young based on the print size. "This is valuable information," Yuna said. "War beast cubs are worth a fortune to research facilities. The bounty for the mother plus the sale of the cubs." She trailed off, doing calculations in her head. "No," Hyun-woo said firmly. "No?" Karvesh turned to him. "Captain, this could fund our operations for a year. We were hired to stop a dangerous creature, not to raid a den. She's killed people. People who entered her territory while she had young to protect. Look at the pattern of attacks. All within 5 kilometers of this location. All in the last 2 months. When would she have given birth?" 2 months ago, Taemin answered. "The killing started when the cubs were born." Hyun-woo nodded. "She's not a rogue hunter. She's a mother defending her young. There's a difference." "Not according to the contract," Karvesh argued. "We were paid to eliminate a threat. That's what we should do." The crew shifted uneasily. Some seemed to agree with Karvesh. Others looked uncertain. A new sound interrupted them. Engines. Multiple engines approaching fast. "Company," Yuna said, checking her scanner. 3 ships, landing near our position." "Who?" Hyun-woo demanded. "Mercenary signatures. Not registered with any guild." The ships landed in a clearing 50 meters away. Ramps dropped and armed figures emerged. At least 20 of them, heavily equipped. And leading them was a human. Taemin recognized him immediately. Do-hyun, a mercenary who had worked the frontier worlds for years. No ethics, no honor, just profit. "Hyun-woo," Do-hyun called out, smiling. "Heard you were tracking something valuable out here. Thought we'd help." "We don't need help," Hyun-woo replied coldly. "Come on, don't be like that. There's enough bounty for everyone." Do-hyun's eyes shifted to the den entrance. "Though from what I'm hearing, we're looking at more than just a bounty. War beast cubs? That's serious money. The cubs are not part of the contract." "Maybe not your contract," Do-hyun gestured to his crew. "But I'm happy to expand the scope, make it worth everyone's time." His crew spread out, surrounding the area. They had more weapons, more people. Hyunwoo's team was outgunned. Then Do-hyun noticed Taemin. His smile widened. Well, Taemin, heard you joined up with the Varric. How's that working out? He walked closer. Still playing pack mule? Still pretending you're one of them? Taemin said nothing. You know, I've got a spot on my crew, triple what these lizards are paying you. No hard work, no respect issues, just easy money. Do-hyun leaned in. All you have to do is step aside while we handle this. Handle what? Taemin asked quietly. The beast, the cubs, all of it. Clean sweep. Maximum profit. You mean kill a mother and her children? I mean capitalize on an opportunity. Don't go soft on me, Taemin. You know how the galaxy works. Survival of the strongest, the richest. That's us, not her. Taemin looked at the den entrance. He thought about the mother inside, probably terrified, knowing threats were outside but unable to run without exposing her young. He thought about the cubs, innocent, just trying to survive. Then he thought about Earth, about the stories of his ancestors, how they had hunted mammoths with primitive weapons, how they had survived ice ages and disasters, not through being the strongest or the fastest, but through being the most stubborn, the most unwilling to give up on what was right. No, Taemin said. No? Do-hyun laughed. No to what? The money? The job offer? No to all of it. Taemin walked forward, positioning himself between Do-hyun's crew and the den entrance. His hand rested on his sidearm, though he knew it would not be enough against 20 armed mercenaries. Move, Taemin, Do-hyun said, his smile fading. Don't be stupid. You want them? You go through me. Complete silence fell. Even the jungle seemed to hold its breath. Do-hyun stared at him in disbelief. You're serious? You're going to die for animals? For creatures that would eat you without a second thought? Maybe. But at least I'll die standing for something. You're insane. Probably, Karvesh whispered urgently to Hyunwoo. Captain, we should leave. This is not our fight. Let them handle it. Hyunwoo did not move. He was watching Taemin, studying him with that same intense gaze. Do-hyun raised his weapon. Last chance, Taemin. Move or I'll move you. No. Do-hyun's finger tightened on the trigger. His crew raised their weapons, all aimed at Taemin. Then Hyunwoo stepped forward. He moved to stand beside Taemin, facing Do-hyun's crew. You go through both of us, Hyunwoo said calmly. The words hit like thunder. A Varric hunter, the most feared predator species in the galaxy, had just chosen a human's side over profit and pragmatism. Do-hyun's mouth fell open. You're joking. I do not joke. One by one, the rest of Hyunwoo's crew moved forward. Yuna first, then 2 others. Even Karvesh, after a long hesitation, stepped up to join the line. 7 Varric and 1 human, standing between the mercenaries and the den. This is stupid, Do-hyun shouted. You're throwing away a fortune! We're honoring what it means to hunt, Hyunwoo replied. Something you would not understand. Fine, fine, Do-hyun gestured sharply. We'll do this the hard way. Kill them all. Take the beasts. His crew opened fire. The world exploded into chaos. Energy bolts flew through the air. Taemin dove for cover behind a boulder, returning fire. The Varric scattered, using their superior speed and combat training. Hyunwoo moved like liquid death. His shots were precise, taking down mercenaries with ruthless efficiency. Yuna provided covering fire while 2 others flanked around the sides. Taemin aimed carefully, making each shot count. He hit a mercenary's weapon, disabling it, then another's leg, dropping him. He was not the best fighter, but he was smart and patient. A mercenary rushed his position. Taemin rolled aside, used his momentum to trip the attacker, then struck with his weapon's stock. The mercenary went down. Karvesh was fighting 2 at once, his natural strength overwhelming them, but more kept coming. Too many! Yuna shouted. Then a roar split the air. The mother beast emerged from the den. She had heard the fighting, heard the danger to her territory. She was massive and furious, and she did not distinguish between the two groups. She charged into Do-hyun's crew like a living tank. Mercenaries scattered, screaming. Some fired at her, but her armored hide deflected most shots. "Fall back," Do-hyun ordered. "Fall back to the ships." His crew retreated in disorder. The beast chased them, roaring, making sure they left her territory. Hyunwoo's team held their position, not moving, not shooting. The beast stopped between them and the fleeing mercenaries. She looked at them, studying them with intelligent eyes. Taemin stepped forward slowly, hands visible, weapon lowered. "We're not here to hurt your children," he said softly. "We understand. We're leaving too." The beast watched him. For a long moment, nothing moved. Then she turned and walked back to her den, disappearing inside. Hyunwoo let out a breath he had been holding. The crew lowered their weapons slowly. In the distance, Do-hyun's ships took off, fleeing the planet. Karvesh looked at Taemin. "You spoke to it." "I spoke. Whether she understood, I don't know, but she chose not to attack." "Because you stood for her," Yuna said quietly. "When you had nothing to gain." Hyunwoo placed a hand on Taemin's shoulder. It was the first time he had touched him. The gesture was brief but significant. "Come," the captain said. "We report that the threat has been neutralized. The beast moved territories," which is true because she will now leave this area. Her cubs are old enough. "You're letting her go?" Karvesh asked. "I'm completing the contract, stopping the threat. The method is my choice." No one argued. As they walked away from the ravine, Taemin looked back once. He thought he saw eyes watching from the shadows of the den. Grateful eyes, maybe. Or maybe that was just his imagination. The Galactic Fringe Station looked the same as when Taemin had left it, but everything felt different. The silent Talon docked smoothly, and the crew prepared to disembark. Taemin packed his small bag, expecting to receive his payment and move on. His contract had surely ended after what happened on Talvex 9. They had forfeited the bounty. The contract was technically unfulfilled, even though the beast had left the populated areas. Hyunwoo had filed a report claiming mission success. But Taemin knew how bureaucracy worked. There would be questions, investigations. He walked down the corridor toward the exit, but Hyunwoo's voice stopped him. "Taemin, my quarters. Now." The captain's quarters were larger than Taemin expected. Simple but functional. Maps covered the walls, showing hunting grounds across a dozen systems. Trophies lined shelves, but they were not what Taemin expected. No heads or pelts. Instead, there were small tokens. A carved stone, a woven bracelet, a dried flower. Hyunwoo saw him looking. Each one represents a hunt where killing was not the answer, where understanding was stronger than violence. I didn't know Varric thought that way. Most don't. But I learned long ago that being the best hunter means knowing when not to hunt. Hyunwoo gestured to a seat. "Sit." Taemin sat. His bag rested on his lap, ready to leave at any moment. Hyunwoo opened a small case. Inside were tools Taemin did not recognize, sharp, precise instruments that gleamed in the light. "Do you know what these are?" Hyunwoo asked. "No, sir." "They are for the marking, a ceremony among my people. When a hunter proves themselves, when they complete the true hunt, they receive marks, scars of honor." Taemin's eyes widened. "Sir, I'm not Varric. I can't—" "The true hunt is not about killing the most dangerous prey. It is about hunting for what is right, not what is profitable. It is about standing for something greater than yourself." Hyunwoo lifted one of the tools. "You completed the true hunt, Taemin. Better than most Varric I have known. I just did what felt right." "Exactly." Hyunwoo moved forward. "This will hurt." The marks must be earned through pain. If you accept, you will be a Tharkin, brother of the hunt. You will be family to every Varric who sees these marks. Taman hesitated. Why me? Why did you really choose me for this crew? Yunwu was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was thoughtful. 200 years ago, I hunted on a world called Terra. Earth, you call it. I was young then, arrogant. I wanted to prove I could track and kill Earth's apex predators. I hunted your lions, your bears, your great sharks. And? I failed to understand what I was hunting. The apex predator of Earth is not any of those creatures. Hyun-woo's eyes met his. It is humans. Your species hunted mammoths with sharpened sticks and patience. You chased prey for days until it collapsed from exhaustion. You survived ice ages and plagues and extinction events, not because you were the strongest or the fastest. Because we don't stop, Taman said quietly. Yes, I watched humans on Earth. I saw what made them dangerous: persistence, endurance, the absolute refusal to quit. I left Earth humbled, and I decided that if I ever found a human who embodied those qualities, I would bring them into my crew. How did you find me? I watched many humans over the years. Most had forgotten what they were. They relied on technology, on comfort. But you, Hyunwoo gestured at him. You still remember. I saw your record. Every job you finished, no matter how difficult, no matter how others treated you, you endured. Taman felt something tight in his chest. I'm not special. You are exactly what humanity was meant to be. A reminder to the galaxy that the most dangerous predator is not the one with claws or fangs. Hyunwoo activated the marking tool. It is the one that never stops coming. I accept the marks. The ceremony took an hour. Each mark was placed with precision, following patterns that had been used for thousands of years. The pain was intense, but Taman did not flinch. He breathed through it, centered himself, endured. When it was done, Yunwoo gave him a mirror. The marks ran along Taman's forearms, intricate patterns that told a story. The story of the Talvex 9 hunt. The story of standing against impossible odds. The story of choosing right over profit. You are a Tharkin now, Hyunwoo said. My brother. A knock at the door interrupted them. Karvesh entered, then stopped when he saw the marks. Captain, he said slowly, is this wise? It is necessary. Karvesh looked at Taman for a long moment. Then, to Taman's shock, he knelt. It was a gesture of respect among Varric, given only to honored equals. I was wrong about you, Karvesh said. I am sorry. I let prejudice blind me to your worth. Stand up, Taman said, uncomfortable. Please. Karvesh stood, but his expression remained serious. The crew wishes to know if you will stay with us. We understand if you wish to leave, but we would be honored to have you remain. Even though I'm human? Because you are human. You showed us something we had forgotten. That strength is not just in claws and scales. It is in spirit, in will. Taman looked at Hyunwoo, who nodded slightly. I'll stay, Taman said. Word spread quickly through the station. A human had received Varric hunting marks. An outsider had been named a Tharkin. It was unprecedented. Jisoo found Taman in the station cantina that evening. She stared at his marks in amazement. What did you do out there? She asked. I was myself, that's all. That's not all. You've changed everything. She showed him her datapad. Look at this. 17 Varric hunting crews have sent requests to the Human Liaison Office. They want human crew members now. You've opened doors for our entire species. Taman had not thought about that. He had just been trying to do his job, to survive, to stand for what was right. But apparently, that was enough. They'll be disappointed, he said. Most humans aren't like me. Maybe. Or maybe you reminded them what they could be. Over the next days, Taman saw the change. Other humans on the station stood a little straighter, walked with more confidence. The Varric crews watched them differently now, with curiosity instead of contempt, with interest instead of dismissal. Yuna told him that 3 other Varric ships had already hired humans. One captain had specifically requested someone like Taman. "You have become a symbol," she said, "whether you wanted to or not. I just want to hunt." "Then hunt, but know that every step you take now, others follow." The Silent Talon prepared for its next mission. A request had come from a colony world dealing with invasive predators. Dangerous work. Long mission. Exactly the kind of thing the crew specialized in. Hyunwoo gathered everyone for the briefing. When Taman entered, the crew stood. Not mockingly, not reluctantly, but with genuine respect. "Welcome, Atharkan," they said in unison. Taman took his place among them. Not at the back, not at the front, just part of the crew. "This mission will be difficult," Hyunwoo began. "The predators are fast and numerous. We will need every skill we possess." He looked at Taman. "Your thoughts?" It was the first time anyone had asked his opinion at the start of a mission. Taman studied the data. "Pack hunters. They work together. We should study their coordination patterns. Find the Alpha. Disrupt their communication." Karvesh nodded. "Sound strategy." "I agree." The meeting continued with everyone contributing, planning, preparing, working as a true team. That night, Taman stood at the observation deck and watched ships come and go. The station was busy as always. Thousands of beings moving through the galaxy, pursuing their dreams and missions. Hyunwoo joined him, standing in comfortable silence. "Do you know why persistence hunting works?" Hyunwoo finally asked. "We outlast the prey. We keep coming until they can't run anymore." "Yes, but there is more to it. The prey runs because it is afraid. It wastes energy in fear. The hunter walks calmly, confidently. No fear, no wasted effort, just certainty." Hyunwoo looked at him. "You have that certainty, that calm, that absolute knowledge that you will continue no matter what. It's all I know how to do. It is enough. It is everything." They stood together, looking out at the stars. 2 hunters from different worlds, different species. Brothers now, bound by something deeper than blood. "The galaxy sees us as prey sometimes," Hyunwoo said. "Small, weak, breakable. They forget that prey can become predators, that the hunted can become hunters." "What do you see when you look at humans now?" Taman asked. Hyunwoo's mandibles clicked in what might have been a smile. "Inevitable," he said. "I see the future. The species that walked across continents, that crossed oceans in wooden boats, that reached for the stars with primitive rockets. You will not stop. You cannot stop. It is not in your nature." "And that doesn't scare you?" "No. Because I would rather have humanity as brothers than as enemies. And because I believe that when humans truly remember what they are, when they stop apologizing for being human, they will not conquer the galaxy." "What will we do?" "You will teach it. You will remind every species that the deadliest weapon is not the gun or the ship or the bomb. It is the will to continue, the refusal to quit, the certainty that no matter how many times you fall, you will stand again." Taman looked down at his marked arms. The patterns seemed to glow in the station lights. "I hope you're right." "I am. I have seen it. In you. In the humans who will come after you. The galaxy is about to learn what Earth learned millions of years ago." "What's that?" Hyunwoo turned to leave, but paused at the door. "That when humans start hunting, nothing can hide forever. Not distance, not time, not impossibility. You find your prey, you track it to the ends of existence if necessary, and you never, ever let go." He left Taman alone with his thoughts and the stars. Somewhere out there, new crews were forming. New partnerships between species. new understanding blooming where there had only been contempt. And it had all started with one human who refused to quit, who stood when standing meant death, who endured when endurance seemed impossible. Taemin smiled slightly. Maybe Hyunwoo was right. Maybe humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy was not technology or art or philosophy. Maybe it was simply the reminder that some things are worth standing for, that some races never stop, that some hunters never quit, and that sometimes the soft ones with no claws, no fangs, no natural weapons were the most dangerous of all, because they were inevitable, and nothing in the universe could stop what was inevitable.